Alrighty, so today we're going to talk about the Philadelphia Union in the Moving Forward series episode. So last season, the Philadelphia Union definitely did something that I don't think a lot of people thought that this was going to happen. In fact, I don't think even the most optimistic Union fans would have thought that last year they would have won the Supporter Shield. Like of all the teams that we picked to potentially win the Supporter Shield, the Union was definitely not near at anyone's near the top of the list in terms of favorites to win the supporter shield, especially with the way that last season, with the off season that they had, it feels like it was a transitional year of them moving away with some of their old core and then even bringing a new head coach with Bradley Carnell coming in, replacing the long time head coach Chip Hearn in this team. And the fact that in just 1 year, Bradley Carnell was able to get this team to a support the shield champion, it's got to be very impressive. Though, that being said, what is not impressive is the fact that once again, cannot get over the hump. They got knocked out in the playoffs this time in the second round. And usually, when you have a team that won the supporter shield, you usually see a team maybe build on that. But no, it feels like the Philadelphia Union, at least from what we've seen this offseason, it feels like they're kind of continued that gutting that we saw in the last offseason where they're moving on in terms of some of the old core that they have and started bringing some new pieces. And I actually don't mind that that is the case because I think there is a reason why last year we kind of saw the gutting. And even throughout the season as well, we're starting to see the gutting of the old core because they know that the old core that they have just doesn't seem like is going to get over the mountaintop. They tried it so many times, it just does not work whatsoever. And instead of maybe trying to run it back again, and especially maybe kind of now them going with a little hybrid look of going with some of the new core piece that they have, but also sticking with some of the veteran. They don't think that maybe that might be enough in terms of pushing them over the mountaintop. But that being said, last season they did finish with a 26-8 record and finished with 66 points. They scored 57 goals last season while allowing 35 goals, which is the best goal allowed mark out of any team. They had the best defensive record in the league. No surprise. The Union has always been a very good defensive team, even under Jim Kern for a very long time, and they finished with a plus 22 goal differential. They finished first in the Eastern Conference, but most importantly, they won their second Supporters Shield in franchise history as well. But unfortunately, that was not enough in terms of them able to go far into the playoffs. Hey, at least I will say for the Union, the good news compared to last time when they won the Supporters Shield, at least they won a playoff series. Last time when they won the Supporter Shield, their first one back in that COVID shortened season in 2020. They got ousted after just one game as well. This time, at least, they made it to the second round, but unfortunately, they faced their own nemesis, that is NYCFC. And really, besides that one playoff series win that they had, which was pretty big too, it was a Eastern Conference Final win that got the Union to MLS Cup in 2022, and we'll just kind of leave it at that at that. But yeah, besides that, NYCFC has kind of been a bit of a nemesis for the Philadelphia Union. In fact, Maxi Morales has kind of been the nemesis of the Philadelphia Union. If you want to mention that name in Union fans, I'm pretty sure Union fans are going to have a huge groan because, yeah, it feels like he's kind of that guy kind of have a little ownage over the Union, and I think thing last year, if I remember, it was his goal last season. That was the difference in that tightly contested game with them and NYCFC. Top goal scorer on this team, you got Ty Baribo, who's actually no longer on this team. So this, I think, might be a first where I don't think I've ever done a moving forward series episode where I talk about players that is in the top goal scoring and top assist leader on a team that is no longer on this team right now. Both of them move on with Ty Baribo going to DC United of all places. I mean, that I definitely did not see that coming. But he finished with 16 goals, and there was early this season when he really got off to a great start to the season. Remember, there was a time where for the first 4 games he scored 6 goals, and it looks like he was maybe going to be a prime target of winning the Golden Boot. Well, it didn't quite happen. And in many ways, I feel like Ty Baribo, his issue this season was the same as last season, where last season he started really hot when he finally got the chance, and then he kind of cooled down to a point where he was kind of ice cold near the end of the season, and it was kind of the same case again. Started relatively hot, looked like a man in form, but then when the goal dried up, the goal really dried up for him. But that doesn't stop DC in terms of paying a huge amount of money to get him this off season, but they do lose them this off season that that is the Union with Tyrell scoring 16 goals. Then after that, you got Diamante with 7 goals. Mikael Uru, who's also no longer on this team, they decide not to re-sign him to a new contract, which I don't think that was a big surprise. I think a lot of people thought that he was going to re-sign with this team, but he finished with 6 goals, followed by Indiana Vassila with 5 goals, and Danny John Jack rounds up the top five with 3 goals for this Union team. For the top assist leader, like I said, this might be the only time I've seen a team where their top goal scorer and top assist leader is no longer on this team as the season begin because they recently sold Wagner. This has been a thing that we've been talking about for the past couple of years of where is he exactly going to go, and is this going to be the time where it's finally the time he's going to be sold off and get that move back to Europe? And it turns out this offseason was finally that time of him going to Birmingham City. I mean, they did get a good amount for him uh at the end of the day, but still, that is a huge loss for this Union team, and that's going to be something we'll definitely talk about in just a bit of something that they'll definitely need to hope to find a replacement, because he was probably the best assist fullback in this league. I mean, what he has done not just this season, but really for the past couple years of him being an assist maker from his fullback position. I mean, we've seen it more and more nowadays, where a lot of fullbacks usually are able to create the assists, especially from crosses, and he is definitely up there along with Julian Gressel as one of the best crosser in this league, but he does it in an exceptional way. And again, that is a huge loss for the Philadelphia Union in terms of that. But he did finish with 11 assists, followed by Quinn Sullivan with 9 assists. Then you got Mikael Uru with 6 assists, Milan Iloski with 5 assists, and Frankie Westfield rounds up the top five with 5 assists with this Philadelphia Union team. Best win of the season. I know some people might say the 6-0 win that they had against DC United on the road, because that is by far the most goal that they score this season, and usually in a big blowout like that, I would always say that that's the best win of the season. But I'm actually instead going to go with the 4-0 win that they had against Chicago. The reason why I didn't go with the 6-0 win on the road against DC is because they have pretty much owned DC in the past couple of years. I mean, them beating DC and putting a crooked number against DC, it's almost like it started to become a normality, which again, that's kind of crazy to say for a team that always not only has the number of their opposition, but just simply beat them down every single time. Like, there's been just so many lopsided games between the Union and DC United, to the point where I mean, I don't think a lot of people are surprised the fact that the score line was 6-0. And you got to also remember DC is not having a great season whatsoever, and when the Union played them, I mean, that team was already in CU next season mode. So yeah, instead I'm gonna go with the 4-0 win that they had against the Fire at home. That was really the game where I thought not only they control from the beginning to the end, but they really shut down a Chicago team that this is supposed to be one of the best road team in the league. Like, Greg Berhalter Fire team, when they play on the road, they're no joke. This is a team that has got some big wins on the road, but in this game, I mean, they just got absolutely crushed by this Union team that definitely looked like that was the game that really kind of made a huge statement that, yeah, this is a team that not only could win the Supporter Shield this season, but definitely a team that could be watched for, and definitely a team that maybe all of a sudden, that window that we thought might have slammed shut in terms of their contending after them selling pieces this offseason, looks like now it's open again with this big win that they had, and the fact that eventually they won the Supporter Shield. But the worst loss of the season, yeah, it's got to be the 7-0 loss that they had against Vancouver. So I think the Philadelphia Union might be the first team in MLS history to win the Supporter Shield, despite the fact that they also shipped up 7 goals in a game. In fact, I talk about them having 35 goals conceded this season. It is hard to believe that 1/5 of the goal that they conceded this season came in this game alone. I mean, that's kind of mind-boggling to see a team concede 20% of their goal in just one game. But yeah, that was a game where it was a combination of the Vancouver Whitecaps just absolutely steamrolling, as we've seen throughout the season, and the Philadelphia Union easily having the worst game of their season, maybe in franchise history as well, because that is by far the worst loss in franchise history. And again, it's quite crazy to see a team that eventually won the Supporter Shield. Like, you would never guess a team that won the Supporter Shield would have a 7-0 shellacking like this, but that's the beauty of MLS. I mean, this is a league that anything can happen at any given day, and even some of the best team in the league can have an off night. And when they do have an off night, like what the Union has in this one, and a combination of their opponent having probably the best night of their season, yeah, that's where you got the 7-0 thrashing that we saw on September 13th. But it still did kind of send a lot of shockwave. Like nobody saw that coming, especially with the way that that was supposed to be built as a really big battle between two teams that have supporter shield aspiration, and it just ends up to be an absolute massacre that we saw at BC Place that night. Average attendance 18,331, which is good for 24th in the league. Their attendance did go down this season, but still, for the most part, the Union do sell out most of the games. I mean, I can't believe that it was just about maybe 10 years ago. Remember when we talked about this team really struggled when it comes to attendance, and they were averaging like only 14 or 15,000 fans. Look how things have changed for this team. And why is the attendance been so good for this team in recent years? Winning. Winning will definitely be a way to bring the fans back, especially in the Philly sports market. I mean, in Philly, if you win, fans are going to definitely show up and support you. If you're not winning, yeah, you better believe they're not going to show up and they'll probably boo at you. Heck, I'm pretty sure they'll still boo at at at, at you when you're not playing as well as you should be, even if you're winning throughout the season. But yeah, still pretty good attendance, and it's been pretty consistent when it comes to them for the most part, selling out Subaru Park every single game and there. Looking at the MVP of this team, this is a tough one because I really don't think there was really truly a guy that you can say that he was the standout player for this Union team. I feel like this team kind of had that model of the team is the star, and what that model basically is that it's not just one single player that is the standout player. It's usually the collective players that put in the hard work, and this team definitely does that hard work as well. You just kind of see every single player does their work and provide not only the goals but also the assists throughout the season to a point where you just kind of don't really see like there's really one standout kind of player. But if I had to pick one, I'm gonna go with Kyle Wagner mainly because he was the top assist leader and the work that he does on the attacking end, and especially his playmaking. Again, that is going to be really missed heading into next season for this Union team. Disappointment. There wasn't really a lot of players that I would say was disappointing. I mean, some might say Bruno Diamani because of what happened throughout the season and the expectation that he has, but he did picked up as the season goes along. So instead, I'm actually gonna go with Milan Miloski, one of their new signings that they had during the summer, and a shocking signing as well. I mean, everybody didn't see this coming with the way that Iloski, with him not coming back to San Diego. Everybody thought that, well, it's maybe because of him wanted to go back to Europe and continue to prove his talent. Nobody thought that he would be coming back to MLS and join another team that is not San Diego FC. And really, I think to this day, as we'll talk about San Diego in my moving forward series a little bit later, I do feel like them not having Iloski and them letting him go in the middle of the summer is definitely one of the rare mistakes that the expansion side has throughout the season. Because if he was with San Diego, there's no doubt that we know San Diego is already a dangerous team, but with him there, you can clearly see how much they miss him throughout the season after he departed for this team. But with the Union, he just never really lived up to that same form that he was with San Diego. And I think a big part maybe is due to the system that both of these teams run. We've seen before where maybe one player's fit better in one system compared to the next, and I think Iloski is a great example of it. He just doesn't really seems like he fits well in the Union system, and I think he fits well with San Diego because he's a guy that seems like he fits more better when it comes to the possession style of play. The Union is not that kind of team. They're not like what we see with Mikey Veras and a heavily possession kind of team. And it's also not important to note that there were times where he was playing out the position as well. He wasn't actually the number 9 at times for this team. So yeah, add to the fact, I mean, I might be harsh putting him as a disappointment, but again, it's really hard to choose a disappointment on this Union team. There wasn't really a lot of players that I thought this team really took a step back after this season. Young player to watch. This is also a tough one as well because the Union have so many young talented player to watch, and I know people will say immediately it's got to be Caven Sullivan, right? Because of how much of a talent that he is. No, instead I'm actually gonna go with Mikanya as the young player to watch, and I will say that there's no doubt that Caven Sullivan he will be a star in this team, but just not next year. I think that when you saw him play, he still kind of looks like he is not ready for the MLS level. I mean, he has looked well in the next pro level, and I think he's going to continue to gain that experience to a point where he's probably going to get a chance to prove himself maybe next year or even the year after. But instead, I got to go with Mecania because of the way that he broke out last year. I mean, he is the guy that really is a rock in the center back position, a guy that really just helped out in a big way in terms of answering the problem that the Union has. So as much as I said the Union hasn't had a lot of defensive issue, well, I think last year we kind of saw a little bit of that, and a big part of it is that the Elliott and Glesnes kind of partnership didn't really quite worked out. So here come Macania basically getting to that spot and eventually winning that spot outright, and you can clearly see that this kid has a lot of talent. I mean, this kid really reminds me of Mark McKenzie from a couple of years ago when he was a defensive star or at that center back position, and he eventually got sold off for a huge amount of money from the Union as well. And both of those guys also kind of come from the Union uh, academy pipeline. Well, not in Macania situation, but Macania did came from the Union two team from the MLS Next Pro, and we know that Union 2 and also their academy, they're among the best in the league. I've always mentioned that when I talk about young players and especially who has the best academy. And yeah, there's no doubt that this is definitely a guy to watch and a guy that not only will be a star in this league, but a guy that I wouldn't be surprised he might even be in contention for winning defender of the year because of how good he was last season. So what went right for the Philadelphia Union? They won another supporter shield. So yeah, another trophy in the bag, and really it's one that no one saw coming because again, of all these teams that we talk about winning supporter shield, the likes of Inter Miami, FC Cincinnati, Columbus, and even in the Western Conference, you look at for a long time maybe Vancouver and San Diego can do it, but instead it's the Union, the one that is able to win the supporter shield after all of that. And a big part of it is because they have the best defense in the league. I mean, that back line is absolutely solid. And even though, Andre Blake didn't play most of the game, his backup, Andrew Rick, has really done a good job in terms of solidifying that number one spot. And we'll definitely talk about the goalkeeping situation as well, because I feel like the Union has started to having the same dilemma that I think the Seattle Sounders had when it comes to the goalkeeping position, where maybe they might be thinking about moving on from their old veteran goalkeeper and bringing this guy that is definitely next in line in terms of being the next big goalkeeper for their respective team. And then, of course, the academy pipeline. Again, it's stronger than ever before. This team, there's so many academy player that it would take too long for me to list them all. So yeah, just enjoy watching these player blossom. And you know that even though when they don't make big signing, there's going to be a couple more players that is coming in and just go straight into this team and become good. And this is also kind of the reason why the Union has been so good for the past couple of years. This team rarely has a down year, mainly because even when they don't hit when it comes to some of the signings that they make, because of how strong their academy is, and with them always have a youngster can come in and easily replace someone that they sold off for a huge amount of money. That's kind of the reason why they've been just so consistent for the past couple of years. So what went wrong for the Philadelphia Union? So despite the fact that they won the supporter shield, and this might be me being a little bit nitpicking, but I thought that they were kind of inconsistent at times this season. There wasn't really at one point of the season where they go on an incredible run and they were just absolutely unstoppable. There were times where they do win on a couple of winning streak, but then it's fall after a game where they just like, how is this team considered one of the best team in the league? So yeah, the inconsistency was definitely there throughout this season, but they did win enough games where the inconsistency that they shown at time didn't really quite hurt them too badly. The attack definitely went a bit cold near the final month of the season. So really, when you look at the final month of the season, besides that big win that they had against DC United, and you can also say the game against Chicago and both of the first round matchup was pretty big as well. But besides that, I mean, the attack was not good whatsoever. I mean, they really struggled to score goals in the final month of the season. And even though I know this team has a very good defense, we said this before. When you can't score goals, it's pretty hard to win games, especially when you're in the playoffs as well. You need to actually score those big goals, and the Union just kind of didn't quite do so, especially in that big game against NYCFC. And then, of course, they still can't get over the hump in terms of winning MLS Cup. I do feel like heading into the playoffs this year, there wasn't really as much expectation that this team was going to win it all. Sure, I know that some Union fans would hope that that was going to be the case, but I just kind of feel like even with this team winning the Sapporo Shield and with all these pieces that they had, it feels like this is maybe just kind of the beginning of them potentially rebuilding it from up and be a competitive team in the future sure as well. And in many ways, I would kind of also say that they're maybe a little ahead of schedule when it comes to them getting themselves back to being competitive edge. But still, it does kind of still sting the fact that they can't get over the hump and the fact that yeah, I mean this team has tried really hard for the past more than a decade now to try to win it. They came so close in 2022. Absolutely should have won it in 2022 as well, and they're really hoping that eventually one of those time, especially with them building this new core, this might finally be the core that might do something that previous Union team just unable to do, which is finally get over the hump and winning the whole thing at the end of the day. So moving forward, looking at this team again, this team heading into this offseason, it's not often you see a supporter shield team decided to go through a transitional period, but they are still kind of doing that again and replacing some of their old core. One of the guys that they absolutely need to replace is Kai Wagner, and I don't think there's going to be a perfect replacement for him. It's going to be really hard to replace the what he did, and especially the quality that he brings to this team. But they're definitely will need to do so because that's really kind of the biggest hole you got to say that this team has heading into this upcoming season. But other than that, even though they continue to shred some of their old core talents, so guys like Baribo, Glasnes, Wagner, and even Uru no longer on this team, they have found some good replacement for them. One of the replacement that they have is Aladu, who is a big money signing that they had this all season. He's going to be the guy that most likely is going to replace Baribo, and there's a lot of expectation that he's going to be the guy that will pick up in terms of goal scoring. So we'll see whether that of course worked out. And then recently them getting Sari Larson, a big center back that could be the guy that replaced Glesnes in that position. So yeah, it's not like the Union don't have a backup plan when it comes to some of the big players that they lost. They've already started to create some backup plan, and there's no doubt that that's going to continue as the the off season and the preseason is continue. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, it feels like the Union is kind of in that same situation as the Sounders had, where, when it comes to the goalkeeping situation, it is definitely a discussion that we might have as soon as this offseason. And that, of course, is Andre Blake time at the number one spot coming to an end, and that Andrew Rick has done a really good job since he come in for Blake, and especially with the way that Blake, he still is a great goalkeeper, but the problem is he's having a lot of issue when it comes to staying healthy, and when you have a guy that is very injury prone, especially into their 30s, you're thinking that maybe eventually time is up for him, and that again, Rick has done a really good job stepping in, and I think that I wouldn't be surprised that they might even make that tough decision and say that, well, as good as Andre Blake has been and as trustworthy that he's been doing for all this year, because of how injury prone he is, we're going to take our chances in terms of giving this new guy that has a lot of potential, that is a perfect replacement for Blake, the keys to that number one spot. And I wouldn't be surprised it might be as soon as this season because, like I said, this is a team that is starting to get rid of some of their old core pieces and building this brand new core. This is probably part of the transitional period where I wouldn't be surprised they might make a very surprising decision and say that they might move on from Andre Blake this offseason or even in the next offseason and think that Andrew Rick is definitely enough to be the perfect replacement and the perfect goalkeeping replacement for such a legend that is Blake, like in that number one spot for this Union team. And then last but not least, a bonus fact I want to mention is the fact that this team still have the most game out of anybody else in the league. And again, a big part of that is because the Glesnes sell that they had the Glesnes sell that they had to get to the Galaxy that generated a lot of game. The same goes with the Baribo sell as well. So there's no doubt that they have a lot of flexibility. And when you also look at the premium spot, they only have one DP on their team, if I'm not mistaken. I think only Diamani is the only DP, and I believe they also have one U22 initiative spot open as well. So they still have two premium spot that they can definitely fill it out. And I wouldn't be surprised they might do so too, especially with the way that again the Kyle Wagner replacement. I wouldn't be surprised it might be a U22 signing. I don't think they're gonna spend a DP money to try to replace Kyle Wagner because again, there's that old rule and that kind of cardinal sin that you don't usually want to sign a designated player on the back line, even if it's if it's a very good one as well. It usually doesn't quite work out the way that teams want to do. So I think they might go with a U22 initiative signing and go with a guy that definitely has a lot of upside. That kind of is that young DP that kind of player that will replace Kai Wagner in the future, or they'll probably just look within their academy because again, their academy and their MLS Next Pro team has among some of the most talented player in this league. And yeah, I do think that this team is gonna be good again heading into next season. Although it will be interesting to see how they will this young core will do when they have to battle multiple competition as well with being the CONCACAF Champions Cup and also MLS play. But there's no doubt that I think the window is once again open for the Union. And again, I think Union fans they've been really hoping that eventually it's gonna come. I do think that it will come that their time that they finally win MLS Cup one day, but when is that going to happen? Who knows? I mean, it'll be very fascinating to see. But I do like the idea, the fact that they admit themselves that the old core didn't work. We've seen before where teams tried to ride the old core to the death to a point where there's just nothing left, and how much that really set back the team and kind of forced the team to go for a rebuild. The Union has been very smart of not admitting that the old core will work out and admitting the fact that they need a change so they can continue to stay competitiveness and kind of almost going for a little retool on the fly and has done a really excellent job to do so to kind of continue this championship window that they've been having for now almost a decade now. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video, and if you're a Union fan, who do you think is the MVP, performing young player to watch? What went right? What went wrong? And most importantly, moving forward, how is this team going to look heading into next season? But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.